Hi, I'm Rachel and this is Vanessa and we're from Food Bank WA. This is the first of our series of Food Sensations programs where we're hoping to be able to show regional families how to prepare healthy food on a budget. But before we start, Vanessa's just going to talk a little bit about Food Bank WA.
Okay, so Food Bank WA is a not-for-profit organisation which was established in 1994. We have branches across regional WA as well as in Perth, one in Mandurah, one in Bunbury, Albany, Kalgoorlie, Boulder as well as Geraldton. We are a link between the food industry and also people in need of food relief. So community agencies come to Food Bank and they actually withdraw food at a small cost, and then this is delivered to people in need. I'm just going to introduce a quick video hosted by Crystal, who is one of our colleagues, which will explain a bit more about Food Bank and what Food Bank does.
Hi, I'm Crystal from Food Bank WA. My role here is to provide nutrition education for people in regional and remote Western Australia, and today I want to share some of Food Bank's story with you. In Western Australia, prolonged hunger is a serious health issue that affects thousands. People at risk of poor immunity and unfulfilled potential. Imagine choosing between food and rent. Imagine being unable to feed your family. Food Bank WA fights the hidden problem of prolonged hunger by providing food aid to more than 55,000 Western Australians every month, and demand continues to grow. Surplus food is donated to us by retailers and manufacturers. Our chillers, freezers and fleet of trucks ensure we pick up and store it fast and efficiently at our Perth and regional distribution centres. Our distribution centres support more than 1,200 community groups, welfare agencies and schools to deliver hunger relief and better health to people most in need.
Here at Churches, we feed over 900 people every week. Without the food we receive from Food Bank, these people would go hungry.
There are 160 Food Bank WA volunteers who conduct the day-to-day operations of the charity.
I'm Jeff and I'm a volunteer truck driver with Food Bank, and I've been with them since 1994, and I know the work that I do really helps the community.
Food Bank is environmentally focused via its recycling endeavours. In many ways, we are a big recycler. Since 1994, we have saved more than 250,000 cubic metres of food from landfill. Last year, we provided an incredible 5 million meals to struggling families, seniors and children. Food Bank WA operates Australia's largest school breakfast program.
Food Bank WA has been assisting Dawson Park Primary School to operate a breakfast club at the school for the last 10 years. It's given our students the opportunity to have a healthy breakfast several times a week.
Each week, 15,000 students in almost 400 schools receive a healthy breakfast to start their day and boost their health and learning. And our nutrition and physical activity program teaches students the benefits of eating and playing healthy. Food Bank WA is helping the environment and providing employment and training for some of our most disadvantaged people. But most importantly, we feed WA families in need. Join with us and together we can help end hunger in WA.
So thanks Crystal for giving us that information on Food Bank. Rachel's now going to talk about our other Healthy Food for All programs at Food Bank.
So as mentioned in the video, we have a school breakfast program, and this is the first of our Healthy Food for All initiatives. So the school breakfast program provides free food for breakfast and emergency meals. In 2012, we had 396 schools that were registered as part of the program, and this included 239 regional schools. So schools can access a certain number of core non-perishable items. This includes Weet Bix, canned spaghetti, canned baked beans, canned fruit, UHT milk and Vegemite. For the schools that are able to access one of the local food bank branches, they can also go in and get fresh fruit and vegetables, fresh milk, yogurt and bread free of charge as well. So the next of our Healthy Food for All initiatives is our Food Sensations program, which is what these shows here are based on. So Food Sensations is an interactive nutrition and cooking workshop We do these sessions at schools, so primary schools and secondary schools throughout the whole state. And we also go out to adult community groups as part of our adult food literacy program. So this is a program that we're actually running in conjunction with the Cancer Council and with the Red Cross. The next initiative is our Choose to Move physical activity program. So this is a school-based program targeting children in years 4 to 7. So basically the schools get provided with free sporting equipment, which the teachers can use for curriculum-based activities. The children are also encouraged to use this free sporting equipment during recess and lunch.
So Food Bank also takes the Healthy Food for All programs out to regional and remote WA. First trip this year in first term is going to the Wheat Belt, looking at going at Condinin, Corrigan, Beverley and Brookton between the 5th and 8th of March. They will be holding local sessions at the primary school as well as parent sessions. Another trip coming up at the end of March, the 25th to the 29th of March, is in Collie, where we'll be holding school sessions as well as parent sessions and also an educator training session. The Geraldton trip will be between the 15th and 19th of April, once again holding school sessions, parent sessions and educator training sessions also. So I'm just going to give you some information on the Food Sense program. Basically the Food Sense program has been around since 1992. It was developed by a lady named Ruth Foley. She actually developed it during the recession to teach people how to budget their food money and still buy healthy food. So our Food Sensations program is based on the Food Sense model and it's an interactive nutrition and cooking program based on the Food Sense program. So if you're interested in finding any more out about Food Sense, there's a website which is available. It's www.foodsenseprogram.com.au. You'll find some really great recipes and resources on there that you can use.
So today we're going to be talking about healthy eating using the healthy eating pyramid, and then we're going to be preparing a healthy recipe. So the healthy eating pyramid is one of two models that's commonly used here in Australia. So there's the healthy eating pyramid and also the healthy eating plate, which you might have seen. So the healthy eating pyramid basically takes your food groups and splits it into 3 different sections. So it's a sort of proportional food model that kind of gives you an indication of how much of different foods you should be eating. So it doesn't go specifically into serving sizes, but like I said, is more proportional. So basically your pyramid is split into 3 parts. We've got our eat most down the bottom, which of course is the biggest section, our eat some foods in the middle, and our eat least foods at the top of the pyramid, the smallest part.
So I'll just give you a brief overview of eat most foods. So eat most foods, which is down the bottom, are basically plant-based foods. So these are really high in nutrients such as carbohydrates, vitamins and minerals, and fibre and antioxidants, and really important to have a lot of these each day. So the first one we're going to look at is breads and cereals. So this group includes not only breads and cereals, rice, pasta, noodles also. So when looking at choosing a healthy cereal, stick to cereals that are whole grain cereals such as muesli, wheat bix and oats, as they will give you more fibre and keep you fuller for longer. So things like Cocoa Pops, Nutri-Grain, Fruit Loops, all those high sugar cereals are really high in sugar and low in fibre, so they really don't keep you feeling full and you want to eat more later on in the morning. So also when looking at bread, so choose a whole grain bread or a multi-grain bread. So these are actually higher in fibre once again, keeping you fuller for longer also. Rice, pasta and noodles are also in this group, and try and choose a wholemeal variety if possible, and also brown rice has a lot more fibre than the white version as well. So this food group, breads and cereals, has a high source of carbohydrates as well as lots of vitamins and minerals. So you might have heard people say carbs are fattening and you shouldn't eat too many carbs, but they're actually the preferred energy source for the body and are really quite important. So even though people think carbs are fattening, they're not. So Rachel, can you explain why people think carbs are fattening and way to maybe reduce that?
Yeah, so often the thing with people and their carbohydrates is it's a lot of the time it's the portions that we're eating, and it's also what we're having with our carbohydrates. So if you think of, say, a pasta meal, if you have a big bowl of pasta that's, say, got 2 cups of cooked pasta, and then you put a big creamy fatty sauce on it, and then maybe some high fat, high salt bacon and things, then yes, it's probably going to be fattening. But if you have a smaller portion, say a cup of cooked pasta, and prepare it with a nice vegetable-based sauce, and then maybe have a fresh salad on the side, then that's going to be really healthy for you, and it shouldn't be fattening and cause you to put on weight.
Okay, so Rachel's just going to look at the other food groups that also fit in the Eat Most section.
So the other two food groups in this section are our fruits and also our vegetables. So these foods contain a lot of vitamins and minerals, in particular antioxidants. So antioxidants are the things in our food that help our body to repair any damage, and are particularly good for things like preventing cancer. Like your carbohydrates, these foods also have a lot of fibre in them. So again, they'll help keep you full for longer and help with your digestive system. So these go down in the Eat Most section as well. You also note that there's lots of different colours within these food groups, and that's a really good thing to look out for, because lots of colours means lots of different vitamins and minerals, so you're just going to be getting lots more of those different antioxidants. So with both of these food groups, it's important to remember that you can use canned and frozen varieties as well. These are often just as good for you as the fresh ones. So for those of you in sort of more remote areas where you might not have access to fresh fruit and vegetables, be reassured that if you buy the canned or frozen varieties, they're going to be just as good for you as the fresh. So we should all be aiming for 2 servings of fruit. So that's basically 1 medium piece of fruit, or say a cup of fruit salad, and 5 servings of vegetables each day. So a serving of vegetables is half a cup of cooked vegetables or a full cup of salad vegetables.
Okay, so we're just going to move on to the Eat Some section of the pyramid. So the Eat Some section of the pyramid are mostly animal-based foods. They eat some because they do contain some fat and protein. So protein is an important part of our diet, but you don't need a lot. It's important because it actually helps with the growth and repair of body cells. So some of the foods in the Eat Some section actually have a bit of saturated fat, and too much saturated fat is unhealthy and can lead to heart disease. So Rachel, why do you have to be careful about how much saturated fat you eat?
So as Vanessa said, one of the reasons why we need to be careful about saturated fat is because it can lead to heart disease, and that's because these are the types of fats that tend to cause our cholesterol levels to go up, which in turn can lead to heart disease. So a really easy way to work out if something's saturated fat is if it would still be solid at room temperature. So if you think of things like butter or the fat that you get around the edge of meat, they tend to stay solid at room temperature, where other fats and oils like plant oils tend to be liquid at room temperature. So that's just a really easy way to work out if something's saturated fat. So when we're looking at our Eat Some foods, there's 2 food groups that fit into this part of the pyramid. So the first is our meat and alternatives. So these foods, as well as our red meat, we also have things like chicken, fish, and then our vegetarian proteins. So this might be things like nuts or our legumes, so lentils, beans, that kind of thing. So you can note here in the picture that we have got canned fish as well. Again, like our fruit and vegetables, canned varieties can be just as good for you as fresh ones if you don't have access to fresh fish. But it is important that you try and find the canned fish that's been canned in spring water, just because again it just keeps the fat levels down a little bit. So the reason why these foods are important is because this is often where we get a lot of our iron, particularly from our red meat, and also a lot of zinc, as well as the protein that Vanessa talked about before. So the second food group in this section is our dairy products. So this group here, even though it is milk products, it does literally only include milk, cheese and yogurt. And that's because a lot of our other dairy products or foods that are made from milk tend to be high in either fat or sugar. So again, these foods do contain a bit of that saturated fat we were talking about. So if you can get the reduced fat versions, that's really good. So these foods here tend to provide a lot of our calcium for our body. So that's the calcium that helps keep our bones nice and strong.
And the final part of the pyramid is the Eat Least section of the pyramid. So this includes basically any food that doesn't fit into eat some or eat most. So these foods are usually high in fat, high in salt and high in sugar, and they're not really necessary to have a healthy lifestyle. They're just sort of extra foods that you might enjoy on small occasions. So this includes foods like fizzy drinks, takeaways, chocolate, ice cream, also the butters, margarines, cream, sour cream, as well as oils and other foods like that. So anything that you can think of that's high in fat, high in sugar and high in salt that doesn't fit into the other sections of the pyramid usually fits in the eat least section. So not saying you can't have any of those foods, but it's just having a small amount and maybe not every day.
So when we say a small amount, we're sort of saying, for example, for biscuits, it might be just sort of 1 or 2 Tim Tams, not the whole packet. So basically when it comes to the pyramid, it's just important to remember that we want to have a variety of foods throughout the whole day and to eat it in the same proportions as the pyramid. So as Vanessa said, our eat least foods, these are the foods that tend to be high in fat, sugar or salt. So the reason why we need to be careful about how much of these foods we eat, because eating or drinking too much of these can lead to weight gain, and excessive weight gain can in turn lead to things like type 2 diabetes, heart disease and cancer. The next group is our eat some foods. So again, these are our meat and alternatives and our meat, cheese and yogurt. And these are important because they give us protein, which is the building blocks for growth and repair in our bodies. And they also provide lots of important minerals for our bodies, such as iron, zinc and calcium. And then lastly, we have our eat most foods, which is of course the biggest part of the pyramid. So these are important because they give you those carbohydrates for long-lasting energy, and also fibre, which not only helps with digestion, but helps keep you full as well, especially those whole grain or brown varieties. And they also are an important source of vitamins and minerals, full of antioxidants to help keep you healthy. So just remember to eat lots of different colours.
Okay, so we just wanted to give you an overview today of the healthy eating pyramid, and just to give you some basic information on what sort of foods you should be eating most, what sort of foods you should be eating some, and also the eat least foods. So now we're actually going to be back shortly to show you how to cook a simple healthy recipe called pita toasties.
So we're now going to prepare our pita toasties, but before we begin, we just want to show you the setup for the equipment. So this is basically all you'll need to prepare this recipe. So as you can see, it's quite a simple setup. So if you're wanting to cook something like this at your CRC, this is just the basic equipment you need. You don't need a big commercial kitchen, just enough space to set out the equipment and just somewhere to do the dishes afterwards. So for this particular recipe, what you'll need is a nice sharp knife and some chopping boards, some tongs, a spatula, grater, a couple of bowls and a sandwich press. But if you don't have a sandwich press, you can just use a fry pan or the grill in your oven.
Okay, we're just going to go through the ingredients that you need to make the pita bread toasties today. So we're just looking at the flat bread. You can use any sort of pita bread, wraps or tortilla, anything that you might have in your cupboard or in the freezer, or that you can buy from your local supermarket. So today we're just using a multi-grain flatbread. So also using 2 other vegetables. Today we're just using the sweet potato and pumpkin, but you can use anything that can be grilled. So looking at zucchini, capsicum, eggplant, anything that is easily grilled can be used in the toastie. So we're also looking at using tomato. So we've got fresh tomato today, but you can actually use baked beans or anything that can give that tomato flavour. We're also using a spinach today, so you can use any sort of green leafy vegetable. We've just got the English spinach here, but anything, even kale and things like that you can use also. We're also just using a small amount of cheese. Cheese is optional, but sometimes it makes the toastie taste really yummy. Okay, so we're just going to first of all make sure we wash our hands, and that's really important when you're cooking, and also about knife safety. So looking at using a sharp knife, so just making sure that if you have children around, keeping them out of the kitchen, and also putting the knife out of reach after you've actually used it is always a good idea. We're actually using a sandwich press today, but it's actually you can use your oven if you've got a grill. You can use a small frying pan if you want to grill it on the stove. So anything that can sort of make the veggies soft to go into the pita bread toastie is really good. So if you're using a stove top and a frying pan, just make sure that you keep the handles out of reach for small children also. So the first step in making the pita bread toasties is actually cutting up the vegetables. And today we're just using the sweet potato and the pumpkin. So it's just about slicing them quite thinly. First of all, with the pumpkin, I guess actually cutting off the skin and making sure the pieces are sort of probably 1/2 centimetre thick, and that makes them grill really quite easily and fast. So the sandwich press is on, so we're just going to cut up the vegetables firstly.
Yep.
Okay.
One thing to remember with any vegetables is that a lot of the nutrients are just under the skin. So if you can get away with leaving the skin on, it just helps boost the amount of nutrients in there. So as Vanessa said, you just want to keep it quite thin, and if you can, try and keep the pieces all relatively even in size, just so that they cook evenly in the sandwich press.
So just going to cut these up quite thin. I'm just going to move those bowls out the way so you can see. So just making sure you cut off the skin of the pumpkin, but you can leave the skin on, it's up to you. I think Rachel is leaving the skin on the sweet potato, as she said, to keep the nutrients close and that you get all the vitamins and minerals.
So yeah, I've just given this a good wash beforehand.
So just quite thin, as you can see, it's not too thick, and that actually cooks really quite fast on the sandwich press. So just going to cut a few pieces and pop them on.
So as we're about to cook these on the sandwich press, if you've got a good non-stick sandwich press like we've got today, you can just put them straight on without having to worry about any oil. Because again, if you can avoid adding any extra fat while you're cooking, it just helps.
So you just put the lid down and wait usually about 2 or 3 minutes until they're soft. You can check they're soft by just either poking it with a knife or a fork, and that tells you whether they're soft enough to take off. So we're just going to let those cook for a few minutes, and then we'll put the toastie together.
So as your vegetables are cooking in the sandwich press, you can prepare the rest of the ingredients for your toasties. So Vanessa's just going to be chopping up some tomato, and I'm going to be grating up some cheese. So just cut the tomato usually in half. I like to do it in sort of semicircles, so it's not big blobs of tomato in your toastie. It's nice half pieces. So just making sure you tuck away your fingers so you don't cut yourself while cutting the tomatoes. So with the cheese, you're just wanting to put enough in the toastie just to give it a little bit of flavour. You don't need to put heaps and heaps of cheese in there because, as we mentioned before, dairy products are the types of food that have that saturated fat, which isn't so good for your heart. So when it comes to things like cheese, just enough to get the flavour. You don't have to completely coat your food in it.
So with the spinach, you don't really need to cut it up. You can just sort of break it up over the toastie when you're wrapping it. So just give these veggies a look, and they usually take between 3 and 5 minutes, just depending on your sandwich press. So these ones look like they're definitely done. So just giving a poke with the knife, and they're nice and soft, so they're ready to go to take off. So I'll just use the bowl and the spatula to take these off.
Again, just being careful not to burn yourself on the hot sandwich press, and just make sure that there's no little hands around that might get in there, because we don't want anyone getting burnt. So as Vanessa's taking those off, we'll just start putting together our toasties.
Okay, so they're nice and soft.
So basically all you're doing is just putting a small pile of each of the different ingredients in the middle of your bread. So you can just layer it up any way you like. It doesn't have to be in a particular order. You just got to be careful you don't put too much in there, otherwise it's a bit hard to wrap at the end.
So I like to do a combination of veggies, so using some sweet potato and pumpkin. So as Rachel said, just a few pieces, otherwise it'll all split out of the wrap. So a couple of pieces of tomato. Some spinach leaves. So whether you want to use cheese or not, that's up to you, but sometimes cheese makes it taste yummy. So when we just wrap it up, so it's just about making sure everything is kept in the middle of the toastie. So you just wrap it around, basically, so everything's sort of tucked in. Take that bit of spinach out because it's going to pop out. just like a little parcel. And basically the cheese will melt over the vegetables and just re-warm up the vegetables that you've cooked, as well as cooking the tomato and the spinach. And then we just pop them on the sandwich press again.
So just keeping them put them folded side down, because that just helps seal it all up as the cooking.
And then we just pop the lid down, and usually just need to wait a couple of minutes. So once the top of the toasty or wrap is a bit crispy and a bit brown, then you know they're good to go.
And you normally don't need to push down on the sandwich press. Usually the weight of it is enough to keep it cooking.
Otherwise you'll squash all the filling out. So other things you can actually, just while they're cooking, we'll just talk about other things that you can put in the sandwich. Things like leftover curry, spaghetti bolognese. You can use meat. We haven't used any meat today, but even any sort of leftover cooked chicken, ham. You could even do tuna and cheese. Anything like that is really yummy as well. You can also, I know Rachel's cooked eggs on there before on the sandwich press, and use that to put into a wrap as well. And just using the baked beans and cheese, that's another good healthy one for kids, whether in the morning or after school. So we're just going to let those cook for a couple of minutes, and then we'll take it off and they're ready to eat. Okay, the toasties have been cooking there for a couple of minutes now, so we'll just have a look and see if they're done. Yep, so you can see the top of the toasty is quite brown and crispy, so if you just give it a little tap, and you'll feel they're quite hard on top, so they're ready to eat now. So if we just take those off carefully and close the sandwich press, and just make sure you turn the sandwich press off. And if we just cut those in half, so you'll see that the cheese is nicely melted and the veggies are nice and soft there, and all the bright colours, as well as Rachel was talking about before, having lots of colours in your diet, giving you lots of vitamins and minerals. So that's a nice healthy snack you could even have on a Sunday lunchtime, a Sunday evening, even for the kids after school. So it was really quite quick and easy, really only took probably 5-10 minutes at the most, and it's giving you nice healthy meal as well as something that's going to keep you full for longer.
So if you'd like more information about any of our Healthy Food for All programs, you can contact us at Food Bank by phone on 0892 589277, by email at info@healthyfoodforall.com.au, or you can get more information on our website healthyfoodforall.com.au.
If you have any queries, questions or suggestions for our Food Sensations program, you can contact us via westlink@rdl.wa.gov.au. Our next program is on the 25th of March on a Monday, and that will be focusing on food for kids. So that will be showing at 10 a.m, 12 p.m, 2 p.m and 6:30 p.m. So thanks very much for watching today, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.
Bye.